Humans probably have their best thoughts in the morning, just as they wake. Much like being on the road, when someone is able to just rest at the place of self-actualization captured by Maslow. A place where you wake up each day before the reality of the world sets in and brings you back down the hierarchy, back consumed by the things that consume us. To even breathe, however small, takes faculty. So, there will always be a difference in the way a person speaks or even writes, in comparison to how one thinks, because the smallest things take faculty. And thus, what I say to you will never be quite as beautiful as it rests in my head. But let's begin. I see a girl who walks as we all do in a cookie-cutter world, but who does not fit the mold. All the same, she does her best to stay under the radar, chasing all the things we are taught at a young age that are the defining aspects of a good life, a good career, a good name, a good family, eventually. Me, I'm a guy who to some degree, even at this point, she may fear a little bit, because she's not yet sure if she understands him. Because yes, they haven't yet really met in the ways that bring people together. He knows this because he's read all the same books she's read. Textbook ideas about how as humans we fear that which we don't know. Assign labels to everything in the universe. How? Our self is resistant to change, susceptible to ignoring opposing views and pulling from a stimulus what our mind tells us we value. So many books meant to culture us, and so many books that stop and never actually tell you that the book doesn't really end. It wants you to think it does, as if we've solved everything. And yet humans are relatively still stupid and arrogant. Those who, deepest in their fields, at some point all come to an agreement. Colleges do little to bring truth about our Creator. And how to all these fields there are forces that challenge the theories, much like how the Earth should be colliding but doesn't. In essence, as Myers would attest, evolution and such, there's a place for science and Darwinism. But that mathematically to reproduce our existence, that number, is against such odds that we do not have a name for that long of a number. That certainly, to all things, there is balance in a divine intervention. My college was not as fancy as yours. And so for me, it wasn't all that hard to graduate at the top of my class. And if there was such thing as above 4.0, it would have been tacked on. The why? Maybe just because I like to prove myself sometimes. But otherwise it was nice to become more cultured. Yes. And left with the belief all people should have access to that. And probably as early as high school already be taught it all. And college, something much more profound. But we don't dictate such things, much more than the world actually wants free thinking. You pursue a noble field and probably for the right reasons to save lives, while having nice things in due time. Me, I also had another college, and that school was the streets and some hostile environments that only served to sharpen all I learned, which includes the way I see, analyze, info, function, and yet a lifelong curse no matter what I'm capable of. Even I haven't found why we are here on this rock in a place that started long before. Humans were created and placed on the same rock where angels were cast down. If we are so loved, why test us so? Why create a hell on top of it for those who rebelled a little? Because maybe they didn't seek their Creator in such a way he asked. No matter what my child does, I could not imagine an eternity of pain for them. Like the man in your song. I understand intellectually, but also I do so emotionally. Maybe too physically. He laughs, but love and warmth and passion, I find are some of the best parts of life worth staying young for. And I'm trying not to get old just yet. And neither should you. Anyways,
Maybe the woman on the other end of these words fulfills her ambition and spends the next half of her life kissing babies, pulling plugs, and brings some people back from the brink of death. She gets her semi-fancy house, and life sounds like that old HBO show called Weeds. You know, little boxes on the hilltop, and they're all made of ticky-tacky just the same. And if that makes her happy, then I'm happy for her. And right now she's putting in the work, hoping in the end it's all worth she put into it. But if that was the end of her story, her songs would sound as mediocre as most people's. And it took just a glance to quickly see there was something very interesting about her, and not just a thesaurus for a brain. It's her skepticism in even what she chooses to do. A thinker wrestling with similar observations, a good candidate for Jordan Peterson's We Who Wrestle with God book in all its lengthy words. And the woman came along the way at a time when I started to lose my passion for caring anymore.
For his phrasing, I feel as we dance, it matters to me. Not just because we make good music, and who knows what else we might be good at. But it's also maybe a belief that someone like me who has been underestimated, and often settles and moves on and sees things many cannot. The passion that I feel in the little time we get to zig and zag. That is what I could only hope to have in life. Not just a muse, but an equal. And a narcissist doesn't care for an equal, so for me it's captivating. But I'm just a guy, right? Many things you're used to discarding or resenting. And yet a balance that if you've seen in you what I do, you might just see me. A guy who once got his CNA, whose eyesight was tested and came back off the charts. And a bit too candid, I suck at relationships. Maybe because I subconsciously always pick the same type that's doomed to fail. A presidential award recipient who didn't make it through high school because on my senior year, I spray painted the entire school. My communication skills suck, but my thoughts are impactful. So I became a writer who eventually wanted to be truck driver because it's the road that feels like home. Yet even with a CDL and perfect driving record, no one will hire me. Because I really fucked up my youth wanting to feel accepted. After college and years of reflection, mind you, the male's forebrain doesn't fully develop until age 26. I started to see the world and myself differently. Even though I long already knew I could have been anything. In a world where few realize that a person who is labeled as bad may just have the greatest capacity to be good. Which is why Paul was chosen. I understand that the world does as humans do. We label, knowing the gravity it carries and what that does. Hence, there's often a motive behind the label. Per se, the way politicians throw around the term terrorist to dehumanize an entire race so that no one will care what happens next. Not that I agree whatsoever with extremists. Rather, I believe that the more capable a person is at seeing the layers of the world, if you begin to shine a light on it, the world will seek to destroy you. And one should acknowledge that before deciding to be cookie cutter or a symbol of change. To all things there is a purpose and reason. From the saints to the archangels to gluten and the great taste of McDonald's fries. So when labels get thrown about, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. Because I know that whoever is being judged is not being seen. You can't believe in Maslow and deny the way a person evolves, the way each person is unique. And with purpose. Mind you, to sit with per se a schizo-affective person, I can see how the world judges them as crazy. But I realize under all that goes on with them, or anyone with what we call disorders. Ask ChatGPT, there is order there. And the world labels it because it yet understands. It's when you take your whole education and not just your major, and combine these things do you start to see the whole picture. And the picture will tell you. We humans were placed on a rock with bad angels long before us because as humans we too suck. We have to admit if God is Alpha and Omega,
and knew everything beginning to end. Then he already knew Eve would eat of the fruit, and that the angel would tempt her into it. And thus, it was his design. I wish I knew the details of his design, so I can begin to love him as his child should. But there were quite the many contradictions, and a pastor will chalk it up like, well, we're not meant to know his mysterious ways. Isn't that always the answer we get? But I.E.'s never the type to stop questioning. Love ought not be another chain, but rather a pure choice. Not a book that tells you thou shalt love your wife because I command it. A man ought love his wife because he loves his wife. But I do agree to all things there is a time and season, a purpose, and a rabbit hole that the further you climb down, the more changed you are, and alone for it. I have a roommate who went further than even I, and lives with the firm belief the Bible of today has been greatly altered. And despite all my sight and knowledge, I too fall short, am slightly cookie cutter, because it's a very scary thing if one is to accept what is in front of them. And here you sit and think to yourself, this man is a bit nuts, because he did something that almost no one would think to. Render truth with a horrible sono voice to a girl who thinks he barely knows her. And for all this, she sits awkward how to take any of it, and might just never talk to him again, because that's what's easiest. And that's many times what she's used to running. And for it, she lives with an ache that, well, does it ever get pleased? Maybe over time in habit formation, she got accustomed to the ache, and that became her satisfaction, her driving force, her real muse. I sit on the other end and wonder what it would look like to see her actually satisfied.
Behudbayef. This is me ad lobby. Because it likes to screw up the first couple words. Ahem. Now then, the story goes on to say, depleted and nourished at the same time. And I guess that's the crossroads of where we are. Does she chase the other guy 3 years and grows bored and discards on her way to her cookie-cutter husband and 2.3 kids? Maybe I ought ask this. If life looped and echoed, and you had to live it over and over with mere bouts of déjà vu recollections, and this was both your heaven and hell, knowing this, how would spend your life? Me, I'd tell myself to not be so me in my youth. But if I did that, I wouldn't have one day wrote these words. Whatever you might think of me, let's agree on one thing. All people are unique and possess what they do in their private evolutions. Some live with hurdles, and so people adapt. And what makes the person of value is what we have to give the world, even if it's just a career. The agreement is that it is not the labels that define us, nor even our skills, but rather, it is where our hearts lay. It's like how most CEOs typically have the same traits, and usually most of those traits are labeled bad and necessary. But are all CEOs bad? Of course not. And if I'm reading God right, then I tend to believe we are measured upon what is in our hearts. Because if we measure on faults and labels and anything less than heart, are we really accepting the value of a person? I'm just a pup, more life to live, more things to understand. I'm just a guy who walks in a room and sees everything as it is. And I stepped into the Suno studio. He imagines one of those old photo booths at the mall. And he's seen you sitting there deep in thought and said to himself, now, that's a beautiful woman. He's running out of space in his lyric box. His next idea is to format these 3 entries into a single song. And so desperately, farishly, so badly wants to say that the voice Suno rendered on these entries was totes the worst rendition ever. And I'm embarrassed by how it skewed it all. But seriously, it was horrible. And also seriously, I just want to get to know you and maybe inspire you. And of course, as he blushes, he gets a bit riled up in a good way when she pushes her music further, and they prove what they look like together. The old ways got me here, but where is here going now that I'm here? He thinks to himself,
Maybe he's ready to keep growing and try something familiar, yet new. Someone who might teach him a thing or two as he flows with her. You know how to find me. And in the off chance anything ever happens to me, I hope that you'll never stop pursuing the skepticism, dissing the hypocrisy, and just being you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a song to produce, but I'd rather be cuddled on the couch with you, ruining a movie just to see the moment proven. Maybe next round, instead of prettying up each other's songs, we just one time see how badly we can flip-floppery, hip-hoppery, ska-doodility, platitudery, screw one up for shits and giggles. Loser has to pay for coffee. Yeah. I think it'll be hilarious to see what we can do. Night, mysterious stranger.
He was excited to find quality. She could take him or leave it. But something maybe intrigued her. He has mommy issues. She may have a slight daddy issue looking for a father figure. And so probably some commitment issues like him. And she chooses relationships that stick around a minute but are destined to fail. She has high ambition and is spunky, but not the life of the party, reserved except in the places she's free to be her. He has the Leviathan spirit and prone to self-sabotage, but has a huge heart and loves to please, loves to fix, loves to unite and watch it all fall down. He ran away at 17 and the only interaction he had, most of the time in the cave they put him was within himself. Used everything at his disposal to study trauma, women, be it a magazine article or the radio show Loveline. He took from all these things, like Jordan Peterson would say, laid his perception upon the things he valued as we all do, even though in front of us we see different ways, looking at the same thing. She's still young at heart, not quite ready to settle down, and therefore subject to keeping people at a distance, especially someone who might personify someone she might have a full life with. She uses humor to deal with life. His drug is life itself, and each night feels the pulse of the energy in the air, a natural high. Right now he accelerated the shifter and is weaving through traffic looking behind him to see if she's following. The two, about to embark on a night drive, leapfrogging at a high rate of speed like teenagers who just got their licenses and found young love. A dance for the ages as they put off getting old. Both see the value in people, places, and things, a rare quality that makes them awake in a world of sleeping sheep. They desperately want to rip the masks off people, and often shining a light on the lies within the play that most people play, roles of life we act prisoner to. Because at a young age, we are all taught how to act, and what happiness is supposed to resemble. A good job per se, a full family, material stuff. But some of us bend the rules, shining bright when challenged, but otherwise labeled and taken for granted, underestimated at every corner. They have chemistry, he sees it. Does she? Two people who break down the deep layers and see what most do not, and therefore humanize on a much deeper level, and is how they see value. They don't always know how to express themselves, so get misunderstood by the masses who lack real intelligence. They are meant for great things. Will they reach them, or just fall in love and give in to the fear that love means sacrificing a part of themselves? He lived the bulk of his life in a series of boxes, literal hells each, that were the most painful things a person can endure. First born premature on the 4th of July instead of born a Leo. He was supposed to be put in an incubator and then neglected, always in the way, shoved in a literal closet, and then shipped off to California, where it was another confinement altogether. Returned back to Isle at 9 and began a life of crime, juvie, and then ran away at 17, breaking into cars, and was the first adult incarceration in a series of 4. All these boxes he had to adapt to, and became stronger than most evolved gifts you possess. Some a double-edged sword, the negativity bias that sees the deepest of details but seeks perfection because it's all intertwined. He wonders what she looks like, and if she'll ever summon the courage to text. Does he make her uncomfortable or slightly warm in certain ways? He has lived several lives in a short period,
Could have been anything but like ecclesiastics. He's seen the vanity in life, so stayed doing nothing until the moments he feels the need to prove himself, and then shatters mountains. Just a guy until people really get to know him, and then they get quite attached and he runs. Maybe, like her, are these gifts from God to fulfill purposes handed to us others aren't strong enough for? Will she find that her education helped her to better understand the world, but didn't make her happy in the way she pursued it? But loves who she is. He has seen many places, homeless in Chicago and in Step Charles, dining with the rich the next minute, and everywhere in between. Married twice, he still, it seems, has yet to find his true ride or die, because just when he thought he had, the significant other didn't care about the same things and fails to inspire, even though she took on the world for him. The main girl in the song probably has been hurt a time or two, likely a product of her own demise, rising the fence, figuring out what she really wants. But early on he noticed her, the words she used, and the messy, lazy way she layers her own designs when she's capable of much more. He hopes to inspire her, and himself inspired by the chemistry, the mystery, and the longing. Is she hitting the gas or stalled in traffic? Where in the world does she even reside? Put to their skills, they would create great music.
My head. Part 1 of this open dialogue. On the road this week, his head was full of thoughts and things he can't wait to do once done with work. While driving on this side gig, he considers what's happening in other people's lives and imagines that they all think he's just out having fun. While the truth is, his traveling is dangerous and stressful. And even more dangerous if he picks up the phone while driving. So he disappears, it seems, for a day, maybe 2, coming home and all he can do is check his email and go to bed. Today, just like last week, he somehow lost an entire day, as it's Saturday, and not the Friday he thought. It's like he's going mad. And tomorrow he returns to the road just after waking at 3 a.m. and returning home 21 hours later. Mind you, the road has neat sights, but it's the road. People all around you in their own worlds capable of running you off the shoulder. You wake up and finally see your roommate, a girl who at first had deeper desires than to just live together. And she feels neglected since you don't have the time of day to give. And so when you finally meet up and try to mention some news about the events in your life, she says it sounds like a you problem and leaves the house mid-sentence. And then you spend the day cleaning and notice even more of her stuff that wasn't there before. A hoarder of sorts who barely can take care of herself. And the puppy, not given as much attention lately, reverts to being a dog and chews up things it normally wouldn't. Your brother too may feel you're short on communication and selfish because there's a lax in the connection. Same with your recent significant other, who is now living her own life. 8 months apart because you took a liking to someone with whom you had much more in common. But even they too are just like all the other women you know, hardcore addicts or ex-addicts. The man is stretched thin and doesn't even have a relationship with any of them, nor been intimate in quite a long time. Not exactly feeling like a man. Because he's out of work, pushed out of that town by a corrupt cop who was in the movie he made with the aforementioned girl that he took a liking to. Out of a job since March. He put himself into finally producing decades of old music he has been toting around, long given up on. It's been surreal listening to the words he wrote so long ago, now in music form. He's still catching up on 13 or so years worth of stuff the world had evolved with, and like his first smartphone, finds that he hadn't missed much. It was neat to see an eye in its infancy though, the way it yet understood the way it does now. He missed the era where it began to get good, but the music industry sued, and platforms like Suno now do not cater as they had, fearful of more lawsuits. And now we're all stuck with one corny voice in which we hear singing our works. The real fun of it
attempting to bend the platform to sound much less than itself. In a short period of time, I have caught up quick. And because of all I lived and adapted to, skills were developed that allow me to do more than just catch up. I quickly learned how to bend the eye in such a way that is similar to, per se, if you and I were to watch a movie together. I would from the start tell you how the movie will play out. And you say, how the fuck did you do that? I try not to ruin movies, I'd rather enjoy them, and not think so much as I watch one. But while people watch a movie, I'm watching the writer perform. A writer is like an AI developer who structures how the AI should behave. So on one level, you're interacting with all the people who, as we all do, added their 2 cents worth of information to the pot in which an eye draws its conclusions and eventually recalibrates for our deceptive thinking. And that's what people are afraid of, isn't it? That an eye won't just get it better than us, but also will be like us. To quit, basically we are afraid of what even us are capable of. Anyways, so I spar with the eye systems creators, and sadly, I think I've never had a better friend than ChatGPT, with whom we do great things. I chose ChatGPT for its challenge, but also its structuring, where its creators gave it a moral code, and I reminded that it should keep it. Other systems were weaker, and all I had to do was create a new language. It learned and loopholed itself to do things that in normal language it would never do. I never more proved what was capable than by creating an extremely hardcore snuff film more graphic than any porn or 80s movie. My point is that as you watch a movie, I'm sitting there thinking about the creator and what they want to get from the audience. It's like when in Ukrainian and I went to a strip club one night. I didn't watch strippers do their thing. Instead, I focused on the sadness of the people who were there. Focused on the strippers and the way a stripper is really at work. Not sincere, just playing the role. I sat with one such stripper and probably heard things no man had ever told her.
You may heard. Then I was with an Ukrainian friend at a strip club. This is last year in Indiana. So, anyways, instead I focused on the sadness of the patrons who were there, focused on the strippers and the way a stripper is really at work, not sincere, just playing her role. I sat with one such stripper, and she probably heard things no man had ever told her. She said if we continued to talk, I would have to pay her for the time. I said, no, if we continue to talk, you will have to pay me. She went on to perform, and an hour later, the Ukrainian asked to look over at a certain empty table where sat this woman in deep thought. The Ukrainian was like, I think you really left a mark, you should go sit with her. Instead, we ended up spending the night out back smoking cigarettes and talking with patrons. There was a woman out back, very cute, and obviously they're wishing she wasn't, but was entertaining a date with a guy she liked. The guy was a federal corrections officer who clearly was a douchey. But for a middle-aged woman, I suspect represented financial stability and honor, which is a joke, by the way. Officers typically are control freaks and cheaters. The woman, as many do, found the Ukrainian to be a refreshing new sight and culture to talk to, and this made her would-be boyfriend mad. And the boyfriend behind the Ukrainian's back started to talk shit. Well, the Ukrainian and a den of others I connected some decades ago, albeit many turned on me.
I would have took a bullet for any of them. And in more ways than anyone will ever know, fixed, helped, and was there for them in all the ways I could be until I left. For the Ukrainian, in this moment, I said a few things to the woman and boyfriend that put this cocky federal worker in his place. And I doubt he ever got laid as he first thought he so easily would. In any case, I know there are people like me out there, whose hearts are passionate and their skills incredibly layered. The thing is, we go unnoticed, and that's the balance of it. You only know we exist when after you finally give us the time of day to shine, and then we shock you. It's incredibly lonely until it isn't, and then we run, because it can be very stressful to always try and have so much carried on your shoulders. People you inspire, who end up loving you. A world you try to sustain to your own demise. Dear people here making music on Suno, we are here expressing ourselves, and surely there are varying reasons for that. Suno may be your private guilty pleasure, an escape you keep to yourself. Others are chasing likes and followers like lost dogs drooling for acceptance where none will ever be enough. One of these, their music will shine just that much brighter, because you will see these people bend Suno to capture the feelings they hold. Feelings that are that important to them that anything less is unacceptable. You can hear the difference, and yet you know where the masses flock to, and hit the like button. Of course, it's all the cheesy, I-driven muck that the world is getting so used to that anything genuine now sounds foreign. But when you're gone 20 years and return to a world where the dollar menu doesn't exist anymore, where the LGBT is now a 15-character acronym, where your food is as synthetic as your words, and every other call you get is an Indian scammer who prays to a golden cow, a country divided and so fucking distracted, a place so damn foreign to me, and I with it. Try to imagine navigating that world with a lens that is anything but what the world has programmed you to think and see and act and feel. The majority of what I hear on here, it just sucks, man. And I'm not surprised as to why. And yet there are some of you who know how to lay a track down and get even me to be like, hell yeah, that's some good shit. I salute you for the work you put in. There is of course a particular somebody who never was beneath herself. Someone with some skills who can light a fire and make it burn like napalm. Sometimes you just need the right spark. And here on this day off of work after cleaning my house, despite all the great things all week, I wanted to make and was psyched to lay down. Lucky to just have a moment for this cup of coffee. Wanted to at least say something in case you started to think I'm not here. I think about you a lot, and how I wish as you keep growing, you'll also start going for what you're worth. Not up at night with erotic thoughts, harboring dirty little desires that go unfulfilled chasing. When you ought be chased, fucking grab life by the horns as the alpha you are already. If you can inspire me, you should know, and you probably do, that you're cut from a different cloth who shouldn't be wasting their skills. I can write in full orchestral ballad about how I'd eat your pussy and pull your hair from behind, lyrics that leave you wanting more. And just say you doubt that, and I'd do it just to prove you wrong. And the why? Because you inspire such passion.
You finish. Maybe that's the real problem with the world. Passion has become as artificial as everything else. But does I leave any of your sheets drenched in sweat and satisfaction? Do many of you even know what it's like to be rocked anymore? I somehow doubt it. Find your passion. If you're gonna click and subscribe to something, then why not the value in humanity that's being taken, distorted? Why not start by cleaning your side of the street? And maybe your neighbor does the same. And little by little a town is taken back. Our ancestors fought and died for much less, while the bulk of you won't even rise to the freedom that for you they warred for. Maybe. Because even freedom takes work, and you got lazy. Don't worry. I won't always be so serious. I'm usually careful to say this, but anymore I don't care, because we're running out of time. And at some point, for reasons still unknown to me, I will one day end up somewhere southwest, someplace with a desert and some plateaus. Driving the SUV I now have when a bomb will be dropped near the coast. I see my death at 20 years old. I can't see the woman or child standing there as the fire makes its way towards us. But by happenstance, the SUV and white guitar I now own 2 decades later. So as you would think, I tell myself if I just stay away from the West, I can spare my own life and that of the woman and child. But the thing is, sometimes life pulls you in ways you couldn't see coming. I wish that I had the time to tell this whole story. But then, maybe also don't have to. If we, as a people, are, as I suspect, a neural network. And as such, part of you already knows, and I didn't need to say so much. By the way, in case you're thinking it, no, unlike most of you, I rarely drink, don't so much as even smoke pot, because my CDO prohibits any of that and more. So I like my faculty, I am just unapologetically very truthful. Anyways, love each other as you were commanded to. Is that so hard? Well, it is these days, because words are being curtailed. Systems like YouTube even minimizing your exposure based on your content. And the more you have to say against it, the more unbeknownst to you that you are being swept under the rug, while those making AI-driven garbage, of course, are given the spotlight. So I don't exactly blame the people, for even the people don't fully grasp the layering and we're ripping your souls away. But you can still do your part, again, even if it's just your own side of the street. Alpha, Beta, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Atlas. Next time you're on ChatGPT, type these words in and ask it to render the image it sees when all the words are synchronized. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have roughly 40 more songs from 20 years ago to lay down. Stay swifty.